Yogi Chonam Lai Chanchu Patu Tani Kyabsu Chi Dagi Chuni Gi Pe Sonangi Chola Penji Sangi Drupara Jo Sangi Chutan Sogi Chonam La Chanchu Patu Tani Kyabsu Chi Dagi Chuni Gi Pe Sonangi Chola Penji Sangi Drupara Jo Sangi Chudan Sogi Chonamla Chanju Badu Tani Kyabsu Chi Dagi Chuni Gi Pe Sonangi Chola Penji Sangi Drupara Jo. So now we're going to offer the mandala. We're just going through the 4 lines. And you'll see on your screen in a moment that who's offering, holding up the mandala is Jessica, our new director, who's been director at LMB for the last 6 months. Tram Ri Rab Ling Ji Nien De Gen Pa Te San Ge Jin Do Mi Te Trai Ge Nama Dai Jin La Chen Barayo Etam Guru Radna Mandalakam Niyataya. So the next thing is we'll have some words from the side of Christina, who is our SBC, who's been SBC actually for a little bit less time than Jessica has been director, both doing excellent job here at LMB. So please, Christina. Tinggal so SBC rela.
Oh, no.
Christina. No. Can't hear you. Okay.
We would just want to extend a very warm and heartfelt welcome to you, Gyümé Khensur Rinpoche, Lobsang Wangdu, to our virtual Gompa this evening. We're very blessed to receive these teachings from you on parting from the 4 attachments. To everyone, Rinpoche has taught here at Land of Medicine Buddha in the past and has always been very popular with the students and the local Tibetans. And therefore, we pray for Rinpoche to return to Land of Medicine Buddha again very, very soon. A quick logistical note for all the students. If any of you have questions that come up this evening, please write your questions down and hold them until later. Rinpoche will likely be opening up for questions at the end if time permits. If we have the opportunity for questions, then you can either ask the question yourself by clicking on the raised hand found at the bottom of your Zoom screen under the reactions button and wait for your name to be called, or you can type your question into the chat and we will help you get your question asked for you. Michael Burdick, if you want to raise your hand, Michael Burdick, your virtual hand, and wave at everyone. He'll be helping us with this as well. So it'll either be Michael Burdick or myself that will help you if we have time for questions. So thank you for helping us as our Zoom monitor, Michael. You're wonderful. We're also honored to have Venerable Steve translating for us this evening. Venerable Steve had the good fortune to study under Rinpoche. With that, I'll hand it over to Venerable Steve to share a little about Rinpoche's history. Thank you, Rinpoche.
Yeah, well, I don't have so much to add to that. Thanks very much, Christina. So yeah, when I was at Sarah Monastery some years ago, I had the good fortune to study with Khensur Rinpoche. So, of course, I want to say welcome to, old students and new students. The older ones will have been used to hearing the name Geshe Wangdu. But in between times, during the last few years, Khensur Rinpoche was appointed abbot of the Gyümé Tantric College. So he served his term there, 3 years. And actually, just by the way, it happened it was quite short notice. So he had to do lots of memorizing in a very short space of time. And I mentioned to Kyabji Jaro Rinpoche, who's actually same class as him at Sarah, and he said, oh, no problem. Gen Wangdu has very, very good memory. So he's famous for that, actually. So he had no problem doing all the memorizing, all of the incredible text that he had to give transmissions of. So anyway, Christina already said, somebody that we've become very fond of during his several visits now, I think 3 visits. He stayed a couple of months each time, and wonderful, wonderful teachings. Wonderful to have him here. Just a being of kind of wisdom and kindness. So we're very, very happy to have him teaching us in this way, and really looking forward to the day when he can come and stay with us again for a few months. No. Yena. I'm just saying I can't hear that clearly. This gonna bring you. It might help if I got earphones. It sounds a little bit muffled to me. So this might help. No. Sabo shidada mindula shoki nanjinde kasang nanjinde sabo shida and deep peng mindu young. No, lare. So greetings, Tachidele to everybody. Well, so the I'm getting an echo. Just a moment.
Hello, di cheba do it. I'm just going to do. Okay.
So Genla was saying, Khensur Rinpoche was saying that from the side of the center, we requested this explanation of the teaching called Parting from the 4 Attachments. And so I accepted to do that. And so that's how this has happened. No.
that's that Shemba Shitake Kordema Lujuta Jama Sheba Yinarwa. The countries Chung you made a deco Lujujima Tomaman Nechishigi Sirwa.
The first thing I want to do is talk a little bit about how this teaching, parting from the 4 attachments, came about. No.
Shemba Shitake Manga de Tanjun Jambe Yangi. Sajin Kunga Numulia, Nansha Menga, Kabar Changes.
This teaching, the parting from the 4 attachments, is actually a very special instruction that was given by Manjushri to the great Sakya Master Sakya Kunga Gyaltsen.
Sakya Kunga Nimbo.
Sorry, Sachin Kunga Nimbo. No.
Di indu sajin kunga nyingbo Koran ta ma chungni lo chungni chamjila rwa. Lo chungni chamjila eni pari lozawa shungay jikzala ya jaga cha yinsari. Jaga cha ni. Eni pari lozawa kunduli jaga cha yindu samba eni pari lozawa eni sajin kunga nyingbo tudu gonglo chungni yinsari. Chungni kapjila eni cha yindu eni pari lozawa eni kirang shenda mendawa eni ngazo masonita rigju sigurwa dongju sigiri tanga du pyoge chena dongju shenda mendawa kyawa chinchires ani kera ta tosan lumni cha ke chimboris temba dan dowala pendo chi guduna ani tosan lumni cha ke chimbo shitaris ani tosan lumni cha bala ani shirab ta kandara shirab yabu gogoyoris shirab yabu gobala ani shirab ge ha chodo jubadi jijun jambeang chadeoris ti inza kiran jijun jambeang duna yabu yoris odus kana yimbare.
So now this great master Sachin Gunga Nyingpo, when he was only 12 years old, he went to meet with the great translator Lotsawa, Bari Lotsawa. And so Bari Lotsawa told him, you come from a very special lineage, and for you, if you want to help sentient beings, if you want to be of service to sentient beings, then it's very important for you to receive teachings and reflect on their meaning. And in order to do that, you're going to need wisdom. And the best deity that you can rely upon in order to develop wisdom is Manjushri. No.
Diinzang ane jizun jambayang zhungkukuri is diinzang tindegi chedo ane sajin pari lozawegi sajin kunga nyingbo na nyingbo le ya jizun jambayang wang na dije nangche ane din nang yimbari nangche ane Koran dine wang shu chilab shu ni ane dawa chukri sajin kunga nyingbo ane jizun jambayang zhungche shu yimbari.
Dawa chukrala.
Nilang dawa chukri samch jizun jambayang zhung samche samshuche.
No. And so Bari Lotsawa said, for that reason, then you need to practice Manjushri. And so Bari Lotsawa gave Sajin Gunga Nyingpo the Manjushri blessing or the Manjushri initiation. And after that, then Sajin Gunga Nyingpo went into retreat to practice Manjushri for 6 months. No.
Dawa chukri kunzam jamyang zhuche kunzam shuni tama eni jizun jamyang ki shesi kwa dinde chungsha Sajin Gunga Nyingpo le shesi chuni eni tandegi eni sheba shitegi tangwa di na yimbari.
So he did that retreat for 6 months, and at the end of those 6 months, he actually saw the face of Manjushri. He saw him face to face, and Manjushri gave him this instruction on parting from the 4 attachments.
Oh, dusri. Dene eni tanda Sajin chole ya toma jizun jamyang ki sheba shitegi menga sungsa di Sajin Gunga Nyingpo lo toma ta shesi chuni eni di song yimbari rwa. Di je la Sajin Gunga Nyingpo je la jizun sonam zemo suya chik chungbari. Di je la eni jizun chaba gyanze dus chungbari. Odi chi suya.
And so you see that this instruction on parting from the 4 attachments was given first of all to Sajin Gunga Nyingpo. Then after him, the teaching went to Sonam Semmo, the great master Sonam Semmo. And then after him, the teaching was received by Jizun Drapa Gelsen.
Jizun Drapa Gelsen.
Drapa Gelsen. Yes, Jizun Drapa Gelsen.
Jizun Drapa Gelsen songche wa dusri. Ini kong namba sumla ya ini namju songya la kabu nam sungyo pena sajin kunga nyungbo che en jijun sonang tsemo che en jijun chaba genzo kona sumle ya kabon nam sum sigora kabon nam sum se ya jumzen kare sina kona zo te genyi gi te yiba eni ta yumi yoba ngarang zo maso no awa sigora ta se pugu putu yoba ta dinde gi chane ta ngao chang sigora mindu ta te genyi gi te chene dus chene eni ngazo pena sajja da dirmuchi chashana shamda kawo chena ngido wa odina shi chene konan zo ngazo mason ta kime yoba pugu yoba kanshi la eni genyi gi te che odindes chene konan zo dina da koran namba sumle ya kawo nam sums odisungu yore.
Now, so these three, Kunganingbo, then Sunam Zemo, and Jitsun Drapa Gyaltsen. So those three are referred to traditionally as the three whites. So why they're referred to as the three whites is because of the fact that during that life they were lay people, they were upasikas, they had the lay precepts, so they were married, they had families, they had children. Just like these days, we have the Sagyataji, so the Sagyat Chizin. So he wears this white hat, right? So and that's that's symbolic of the fact that he's actually a lay person. He has he's married, he has children, and so forth. No.
And the jela, any Jizun Tawa Genza Jela, any Saja Pindita Kunga Genza Shuadi, Pevere. In Saja Pindita Kunga Genza Jela, Tanda Kario, Jogun Chuje Papa. Jogun Chuje Papa said the Pevere, Konani Pevere.
Jogun Chuje
Papa.
Now, after Jizun Drapa Gyaltsen, the teaching was passed to the Sakyapandita Gunga Gyaltsen. Sakyapandita Gunga Gyaltsen. And then from him, it went to Drogun Chöge Papa. Drogun Chöge Papa. No.
Dice, ta konani la ya mabonami shugo, right? Mabonami shuya the konani te rabjung tenche, kimbe te man ba rabjung tenche ni getsu no go domba shi che rabjung ten yinzang ngaran zo ta radu chwe chalu chen de peba yinzang mabonami shuya tiri.
And these two, Sakyapandita and Drogun Chöge Papa, they were referred to as the two reds, and the reason for that is because they weren't lay people. They were, they were ordained, so they received the novice and full ordinations, and so for that reason, they because of their robes, they were referred to as the two reds.
Jezan kyun domne dinama nga chungsuwa kawun namsu da mabun namnisa o digila saje koman namngas saje koman namngas ya de kona namba ngali ya saje koman namngas shuwa.
In this way, you have those three whites and then the two reds, and those five are referred collectively as the I think we usually say like the five Sakya patriarchs, the five great masters of the early masters of the Sakya tradition. No.
O digene da kandara this luju saje koman namngas luju chane didere jinza Tiringa Zushia, Joja, Shamba Shitake, Dama, the Thomas Sonsa di in Jizu Saje Kunga Yumbo, so Tenema, Juich and Jogun Chujapa and Ma Jun and Tadia Palia, and Juba Manyam Chetus, Chumbatus Dosare.
And so this teaching that we're going to be receiving today on on parting from the four attachments, so it's one which was first received by Sakya Kunga Nyingbo, then gradually it was received by Drogun Chöge Papa, and then gradually, it came down to the present time. No.
Any Tina, any pena 단다 셴바 시데기 맹아 디기 제바라 표 간지가 좀 망보 유사리 사제 졸라다 다디데기 제바 카 망보 시다 유사리 다 디는 제바 관계는 다 초도 주바 아니 책용라 된 두바 차장 인게디 아니 지준 잡아 견제기 아니 잠남배 아니 셴바 시데기 제바지 요리 원다 디 데다 제네들이 셴바 시데기 당와 데다 아니 지준 잡아 견제기 송샤배 아니 셴바 시데기 당 명아 디 제바지요라 티니니 제체 아니 마 디마도 수야 인스
No. Now there have been a large number of commentaries on this this subject, parting from the four attachments, and amongst those, the one which is considered to be the most amazing, the most supreme, is the one that was composed by So I'm going to be talking about this this teaching, parting from four attachments, along with that commentary, using that commentary. No.
어저씨 다디인 수전에 단단히 니에들마 슈베 깔라 엔키랑도 깝지라야 디카리나 선배 니마 시기 제베 깔라 아니 셈나니야 토바다 저와든데 용시월 디나 키랑도 제도 잡제 아니 먼저 들마 추주 지하 시에 인디시울랑 먼저 저와지는 되주지 샤네 딜레야 저와지는 디고리스.
No. And so as I'm going through my explanation from your side, if if some doubts arise, some questions arise, then please make a note. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk for about an hour, and then we'll leave, like maybe half an hour for questions at the end.
지준 잠배양기 사진 공간 용보로 송샤베게 셴바시데게 칙디 가르전 칙시 시간시마도 요 말이 시간시는 당보디 세딜라시나 처바 민사 직제 니바디 코알라시나 니주 민사드제 숨바디 아니 다도는시나 창세미 다도스네 디도 랑도스네 디도 랑도는시나 창세미 아니 시바딜라 짐바추나 따와미스 나 베자 칙하시나라 세머지나 따와민사 다칙데 주루 가소레 송다민라 니인고도 간다 칙시디 셴바시데 칙디 시간시디 어두스레스.
Yes. Now, as for the original teaching, parting from the four attachments, that's just 4 lines, and so if I just go through those one by one, this is more or less what we have at verse 3 in the Drapa translation that I believe you must have by now. So it goes, if you cling to this life, you are not a practitioner. If you cling to samsara, cling to the 3 realms, cling to samsara, that's not renunciation. If you cling to self-interest, is more or less the same in English. So, your own interest, your self-interest, you're not a bodhisattva. And if grasping arises, it is not the view. And this is sometimes translated a little bit differently. Sometimes the way it's expressed is, if there's grasping at signs, it is not the view. No.
인도 삼바 칙디 뇽뇽 시우제레데 칙디 제제나라 칸다라 산제게 송다 칸다라 가서래 시라게 파르도 집에 용게디 뒤송고 전다 차상다고 시간시 디나라 뒤유바 근데 나란조로 변한지다 남주치랑조 관계게 람린 꼬르망고 고뉴요리 람린 체모레 다나시 람린 주제네 차상 디나라 뒤대바 소로직 책이요리.
And so here, you just have these 4 lines, but it's really quite amazing because it includes all of the meaning of the perfection of wisdom sutras taught by the Buddha. And I'm sure you've heard about Lama Tsongkhapa's great exposition of the stages of the path, the Lamrim Chenmo. So all of that is included in here. No.
디디오 이니 단다 지준 잠배양기 사진 공간 용보로 송샤베 셴바시 되게 명아 디체 양 지준 잠배양기 장고라마 종가바 침보로 송비샤베 람지 조나바 송비체 좋아 태어나시 단다 다 디게 디게네 주잔네 더블 튜마다고 저리 간가 소 식송다 면자와만 디제 소소 감다 메발로 송다 면자와만도 단다네 튜마다고 시작해요.
And so we have this very short text that was taught by Manjushri to Kunganingbo. Anyway, so anyway, we have this teaching on which was given by Manjushri, called the parting from the four attachments. Then also Manjushri taught Lama Tsongkhapa the three principal aspects of the path, and so these are just little. I mean, the meaning completely fits together. I mean, they're very much in harmony with each other. It's just there's a little bit of a difference in the way that the ideas are expressed according to the difference in the audience. No.
대가나시 냐메 타볼하지기 명람 시간 시지요리 디나라 로체스 도와쇼 쳬람도 도와쇼 람라 파제메요 와쇼 투바 이시스 차와쇼서 시간 시지요리 다 디게디 단대 냐면 타볼하지기 송 투미나셔 명람 시간 시부대다 람조 남송다 셴바시데 디게디 로단다보디 강가 주제네 강가 툼버도 장자 차대요.
Because the low chilladro
was lamla parjemeba and tuba ishisu chawa
tuba na zo tuba seli no jungi chube
tuba de
no then there is also a teaching and it the under the jijujami yangidi
nyame tabolaji melam dida 셴바시데 람존남서 디게데 강가 전다 집과도 제거.
There's also the four-part teaching that comes to us from the anyway. So Gampopa, I think. So because of the Dabolaji. Yeah. So anyway, the physician from Dagpo. The Dagpo physician, so the peerless, the physician from Dagpo. So he also, there's a teaching that comes down from him, and the way that's expressed is, or the way that goes is, may my mind become the Dharma, may my Dharma become the path, may my path be without obstacles, and may the mistake be the sublime wisdom or profound wisdom. So that and the three principal aspects of the path and this parting from the four attachments, really, they all come, in terms of their meaning, they come down to the same thing. No.
디 시기요리 디 가르소로 촌도초서로 다 디데 마이바 땅안조 가르체네들이 데 루루체네 그제 그게 디 시기요리서는 땅가랑 저기 삼론나리야다 주주지 땅고고도 삼에 삼다 상말로 여대바 두서리 말한조 취야고 시고고도 삼에 삼로 여봐 취 제발라 취고 삼로 땅땅 그 돈이 가데가데 지고고 유명다 디데 그 돌아 다 지란저고 돈아 제제 아니 삼류 주주 땅땅 카디스 땅고고 유명다 다 디데 그 돌아 지란저 돈아 지고 디시소 돈에 다 닝은에 다 가소래 소소게 잘라템비고다 가소 다 소소게 기계 신용권은 좀 퇴바디 아니 지란저로마 어쩌진도需要있어.
And so in this way, we see a little of the background story behind this teaching. And now one thing that's really important is that, us gathering together like this is not like we're just having some kind of ordinary meeting. From your side, you need to have the idea in your mind. I really want to change for the better. I really want to transform my mind. And the way I'm going to do that is through practicing Dharma. And so I need to find out how to practice Dharma. And so it's that kind of interest which I encourage you to have, and which I believe that you have. And then from my side also, what I will do is explain as best I can what I've heard from my teachers. No.
오늘 어두스레 뒤에서잖니 다 쳐봐. 취체고 섬에 삼로도 여봐 있었잖니. 당아서 취체봐라. 쳐봐. 뷰타고지다. 쳐봐 랍스나 다 약슈디 쳐봐이나. 삼로 땅바이나 다 세딜레야 코알라 트토바기 삼로딘데 고고요. 좋아. 진짜 다 지당깔래 가고 싶다는데 이내 대다 맞춤아 이나야 쳐봐 딩지잖아. 아니 그게 교와 치만나서 다 간단 온돌 하더미 고바 토투야기 예 삼로치 땅에 취시고고요. 교와 치만 편제 템바잖아. 쳐봐 딩을 딘지 고고. 다 대다 맞추나야 아니 쳐봐 타마다고 질라 아니 가리스고 그랬으나 소소 땅안조 체디니 타망안조 시줘야리 시베 깔라 이내야 스스 셈나라 교바메 버지 고야디 개침버리스.
Now, as Dharma practitioners, as people who want to practice the Dharma, then the kind of goal that we need to set ourselves is to, at best, if possible, achieve release and liberation from cyclic existence. And if we're not able to do that, then on a sort of middling level, we want to make sure that after this life, we are born as a human being or as a god. And then the very minimum is that we need to, lead our lives, conduct our lives so that we can die without regret. No.
다 간다 미질 하마스 나란조 미질 하마 간 여바 디나라 소소가 삼로 땅이 소소가 전주 바주 후다바다 제진 semba sangbo chiya de 와 mi sangbo chi che samba da ani semba sangbo chi che samba da tinde gi samlo kini chiya de pemas ke chimboris.
What's really important, I think, is to recognize that, or to make up our minds that with the time that remains in this life, as much as we can, we're going to have a good heart and live in that way, with a good heart, kind heart towards others. No.
다 간다 나는 좀 로레네 미지야 로게니야 용기요 와 로게니도 타마 다 간다 체 디스도 삼바 아메 코바네 제바네 마시 순제들 체 디스기요 와 디 인주 삼바 다 체디 아메 코바네 제바네 손디 먼저 제가나 지기 동에 준비 동제 다 로야 게니 위요리 게니 다 탐 항마 미지 간 요바 이텔라 ene sosu ki samle na joju ji tani tenga penje nu du che ina tela sosu sengwi joba che ro joba che in hama dela ta mizi tönda demba jewa chima na so mantala ya ngeson de je mo go be ene pge ding da chi ding zu ji ki tone ene chi namba ta ba chi go ade ke chi mo ris.
Well, so each year we're getting older, and then eventually this life will come to an end. When we talk about this life, it's something that spans from the time that we're born to the day that we die. And during that period, then we have all of the different types of suffering, of being born, aging, illness, and then eventually the suffering of dying. And so what I'm saying is it's important for us to think, to feel regret for mistakes that we might have made in the past, and to make the decision as much as we can to use the rest of our life in a what do you call it, in a positive way, to do our best, and at least to make sure that after this life we're not born in the lower realms. No.
Dus in the summer, Tanya, Danda, Jijun Chabajan, Sung, Shembashi, Jabajorwa, in the Gonama, Tsiganama, Shugichi, what is Shuaida?
No. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start going through Jizun Drapa Gelsen's text, verse by verse.
Tatangode, Jiju Chabajan, Sung Jana, Karriorasana, Gajin Chinji, Lamata, Tuji Chinji, Damla, Nine Josu Chila, Dala Chinji Lap to study Chevajobat.
Now you see that first verse, it says, my teachers who are so kind, meditation deities, so compassionate, to you I go for refuge from my heart. Pray, bestow your blessings upon me. So this is the expression of worship. No.
Di Tsigan di Chatsea di Karasina, Lama Dan, Yidamni, Oyeme to Tavia Gone, and Chatsavadere.
And this is a verse in which we see the action of paying homage, prostrating, and who the prostration is made to is the guru, seen as inseparable from the deity. No.
Ngaranzo Gangala ya any Page Carsoleta, Mizi Tunda Damba Yachid, because Chugo or Dunange in the Transola, Lama Givishi Manguyori, and today Susane, Sochi, Jawaram, which is Zube, and Jebjalama to the Sovereign, which is Zube, in the Lama Givishi Manguyori, DJD, Soso Kadinchi de Lame, Molota, and Teda, any Lama Teda Tang, any Tuji Chinji Yidamla touch, Tuji Chin, Papa Cherisi Chep, and Cherisi Go, Lama Dan, Cherisi, or Yeme to Tau, any Page Soa Deva Yena, Dilla, any Missy Cheju Carriorisana, Lame or Tatona, Chidanti Ngurwa Karsore, Chilab Chimboche, Yidam or Tatovaina, and Rana Udu Nudu. Jiag in Nubachi Yoba in Sutan, Lamata, Yidamni, Moyeme to Tevakon, Chatea Tela, Jose Tindijota, Chilo Chewatan, and Chilo Mudu Mudu, Page Chuyagi, and Nuba Yoba in Sutan, Lama de Yidamni, Moyeme to Tevakon, Chata or to Sire.
When we want to make our life meaningful, then we do have some wonderful teachers. You have, wonderful teachers like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, such as Kyabje Zopa Rinpoche. And so, when we talk about the guru, then that's who we're talking about. And when it says in this verse that the meditation deity is so compassionate, this is talking about Chenrezig, Avalokiteshvara, the Buddha of compassion. And so you see that this verse embodies a request. It says, it says, pray, bestow your blessings on me. So when you see the guru and the deity as inseparable, when you make requests, then from the side of seeing the deity as the guru, then you get great blessings, and then because of seeing the guru as the deity, then you get quick attainments. No.
Dala Chinji Lab to Surs, the Chinji Lab tunde Guru Turva. Chinji Lab said the Guru, the Kari Guru, Rangi Sim Gurua. Mama Rangi Sim Yamba Juna. Sim Yamba tell Gun Sim Sangol Guruati, Guru to the Chingi Lab said, Takandar Chin said the Sijinche, Lava said in Guru Turva, Cheta, Simla, any Guayuma, any Kirang Chingi Chilavnaro cheese acta, Tanda Diri, similar Guayuma.
So here it says, pray bestow your blessings on me. So the Tibetan word jinlab, that this word blessing comes from has mainly this the sense of transforming. So the Jin in Jinlab has this idea of like something magnificent, something wonderful, and then the Lab in Jinlab has the idea of transforming. So transforming into something wonderful. But what is it that's going to transform? The answer to that is the mind. So we're talking about the mind transforming into something wonderful. When you request blessings, that's what you're requesting. And what that means is, if up until now, then we've had certain like negative states of mind, then what we're talking about is transforming that situation into a really good, a good state, a real positive state, pure state.
주민지 저바 구주미 출신 주버 제발라 셴바 시대지 남마제 디치지년도 소와 기사 따디 좀바 탐자
No. Then you got the next verse 2. Conduct contrary to teachings has no use. Thus, to act in accordance with the teachings, there is the instruction on parting from the 4 clingings. I offer this to you, to your very ears. So this, is a traditional, something quite traditional. You make the promise to compose. So that's what this second verse is doing. No.
따디 좀바 탐제인데 시간 담보들 주민지 저바 구주미 세야디 다 나랑조라 미세 화마디나라 쳐다 개외게 저바디 나랑조라 고야요 말이스 쳐다 개외 그봐 쳐다 미팀비 저바스네미도 쳐다 개외 저바 베나 미게벨레 디벨레로 소베 따디게 쳐다 개외 자와망고 디게디 나랑조라 고야 민두스 제 아니 출신 최다 tumba 잡아라 아니 단다 지진 잠뱅게 명아 안 셴바시되기 당마 수요리 디 고르데마 니 키란돌 마 시기 인사 디 키진년도 소월 디사게 인 키란돌 마 시기 어디 숨거다.
And what this means is we want to make sure that how we use the rest of our life is not using it in any way for anything, any kind of action, any kind of activity which is not in keeping with, which isn't in harmony with the Dharma. This is something that we don't need. Whereas what we do need is anything which is in keeping with the Dharma, in harmony with the Dharma. And so what he's saying here is that so that you'll be able to do that, I will now give this teaching on that was originally given by Manjushri on parting from the 4 attachments or the 4 clingings. No.
다 디네 다마 좀바 탐제 손네 다 디네 식담 체딜라 다 셴바시데 당와 코라 체딜라 셴나 쳐바 민스 셴 체딜라 셴나 세데 세디시아디 가왈롱을 수고서는 니 더지 콘도 슈바니시 아멘 코바네 제바네 손디 마시 순제게 버루들라 세디시아디 데리 디치고 체도 니 코네 체도 저와치만으로 삼는 남이야 마땅와라 대가랑 디치고 체도 아니 제네 마시 순제 디치고 체도 아니 보게 단계와 두바이나다 가르쳐바이네 디게 디쳐바이네 고쳐바 나바타바 책 말이 중요.
And then the next verse has the parting from the 4 clingings themselves. So it says, if you cling to this life, you're not a practitioner. What this means is, as I mentioned, this life that refers to the day that the period from the day that you're born from your mother's womb to the day that you die. And so when you use that period of time, when you're only thinking of that period of time, that from birth to death, you're only thinking about that. You're not thinking about future lives at all. Nothing beyond future lives either. Just thinking of this life. Then what you do will not be pure Dharma, will not be pure practice. No.
Tene koala shenang ngijumen signiba derwa. Koala shenang ngijumen se de koadi da chidang di disgorba. 다 코와스도 또 시즌에 만나면 봐도 다 ngaranzo ne dige de la kowasigi yore ani dona ngaranzo sache nilenje phungbo de ya kowasigi yore jin 진짜 인자 ani kowe ne le ya bana 하다 미리 대가나시 상바의 제지 진짜게 내라 신체 아니 디 코에 동에게랑 신체 코와 동에게랑 신체 임바 강시라 엔텔란 대외 두시 게네 아니 대달라 아니 차진 대바이나 엔디 년주체가 말이 송거래
When it says in the next line there's a slight difference here, so it doesn't matter too much. But anyway, in the Tibetan version that we have, it says if you cling to samsara, cyclic existence, so it's the same thing. If you cling to the three realms, that is not renunciation. So when we talk about clinging to samsara, clinging to cyclic existence, so one way of looking at it is that means, from the peak of cyclic existence, that level of samsara, the peak of cyclic existence, down to the lowest hell realm. That's one way of looking at it, interpreting it. The other way of looking at it is that samsara refers to our contaminated, appropriated aggregates. So what this is saying is that, you might feel that it would be very nice to be born as a god such as Brahma or Indra. Where thinking of that kind of existence as being very, very nice, very pleasant, whereas in actual fact it's in the nature of suffering. So even though it's in the nature of suffering, you want to achieve that. And if you have that kind of attachment, that kind of wish, then that's not renunciation. You don't have renunciation. No.
이제 다 나중에 시에는 창심이지. 그봐. 아니 다 간다 랑지부치도 아니 삼로당 대바이나 아니 디 와신 간다 제세기 냠레스네미도 창생이 줘봐 책이요 말이스. 와 랑다 시니제는 랑 코네체도 아니 거기에 삼로당의 대바이나 아니 창신 전주 삼바 책 말이스와 된다들이.
And then if you cling to self-interest, you're not a bodhisattva. What that means is that when you only think about yourself, then what you're doing there's no way it's going to be a bodhisattva practice. In other words, when we think of self and others, if you think the main thing is yourself, then no way that what you're doing will be the practice of a bodhisattva. No.
이제 다 지금 시바 짐바 주나 따와민시야. 짐바스야디 짐바스네 참마스네 지와 짐바스야디 가리 짐바스는 아니 말아서 가사가 다도 짐바도 추지다도 짐비 짐바 숙침부 충바이나 딘데 짐바디 아니 가르소래 다 타바다 탐지 짐바도가 남라 더블 제베 아니 따와드 책이요 말이스 어떤 전다들이
Then it says, if grasping arises, so sometimes this is if there's grasping at signs, it's not the view. So what that means is that what that means is that grasping at a self of the person, grasping at a self of phenomena, this is not that's not the view that's going to lead you to liberation or enlightenment. No.
도도 손에 다 되는 마치는 아니 시간을 전다 마 제벌 셔바들 아니 식되는 마 샴되는 마 지준 잡아 전제가 다 되는 마 샴는 마 제바 숨겨 봐.
And there you have in brief what the four parting from the four clingings is, and from now on we see Gyümé Drapa Gyaltsen's more extensive explanation of what those four lines mean. No.
다 디나는 시간 당보데 세델레시는 처바 민소야 줘봐. 디 시간디 마 제버시 인도사바 당 세델라 다 신주요 말. 시험바서는 착받으러 와. 세디 지고 제도 차는 대주요 말이 소야 디송요 봐. 아니 세디 지고든 차는 대주요 말이 당보 세델 마 시험바 수준 퇴동 공부숨 세딜라미는 두바디 치미지 저바 쇼라 쇼스다 세디 코네체도 아니 현자 지주요 말에 아니 세치메체도 능아조 냠레 삼로 땅고고리 겨와 치만놈수 삼로 땅고고리 디치도 삼로 땅발라 아니 간다 수수 심주 뒤제 아니 삼로 땅고고요 심주 뒤하게 탑람라야 아니 거기 라바 추등게 라바네 손도 고존이 저선 고존이 싫어고 냠내체네 아니 거기 심주 뒤고고리 스타트다 디순거
With the next verse 4, what this is saying. So remember, of the four, apart from the four clingings, clinging is the same as attachment. Okay, so if you're attached to this life, in other words, if you're only concerned with this life, then that anyway. It says don't have attachment just for this life. Don't be attached to this life. I mean, don't just think of this life. What we need to do is, instead of thinking of just this life, we need to think about future lives. And if we're thinking of future lives, then we're going to have to think in terms of subduing our mind. And the way to subdue our mind is by way of the three higher trainings in morality, concentration, and wisdom, and the progressive activities of listening to teachings, reflecting on the meaning, and then meditating. No.
다간다 지단 라바 숨긴 나네 당보 추중이 냠내 제야디 개심벌이 그러와 추중이 냠내 제 김바이나 다 땡게니 지단 동발내야요 그러와 김바이나 게니가 동발내야요를 라중이나 디주다 결론고 동발내야요 딘데가 동발내 백깔은 동바세야도 돔세야도 계제도 가르치고 그러잖아 최다 미팅비 차와디 까바들라 돔시고 그러와 디인수단에 추짐스네 돈바스네 지과리 아니 토마르 추징이 냠렌지 제바이나 아니 추짐 송바 되게 이제와 치만 남설래야 아니 온도하다미 고마토야기 둘라 펜토기요 디인수전에 당보 추징이 냠렌지 개침벌이 송아 되래
And from that, you understand that morality is something which is very important. So now when we say morality, sutrim, this is equivalent to, so the Tibetan word domba, we usually say like vows, let's say vows, ordination vows. And so those are equivalent. So we do have the morality, and we have the vows of for the lay person. So we have the householder vows, and then for the ordained people, we have the novice vows and the vows of the fully ordained monks and nuns. And so when you, so when it says vow, this has this kind of idea of restraint or binding. And so what it is that you're restraining from is activities, actions which don't fit in with which are contrary to Dharma. And so from that point of view, you can understand that keeping morality, practicing morality, in other words, keeping vows, is going to help you to create the causes to be born after this life as a human being or as a god. You know.
간다라 나랑 좀 미치나는 개와 마보 두고요 봐 개와 마보 두고요 때 개와 강 두바디 세딜라미는 두바이나 안디 펜도 연구요 말이스 봐 세딜라미는 두바디 쳐바 민지 쉬어라 쇼스야디 세디 코네 치도 삼로 땅이 개외래 잡아다 나 세딜레 기부 요나 삼바다 나 세딜라 야고 추나 삼바다 다 진데게 세디 기부 미유도 손에 인 개vel에 가리 제바디 아니 제바 책임 말이스 디파 쳐봐 민지 쉬어라셔 디파 유쇼스 디스고래 랑게 미치 디나나야 심상보 쳐봐 개와주바 다 간다 간쳐봐 디제 탐지 아니 개와 치미 치도 아니 삼로탄의 쳐봐 이나 그 최도 tumbo 쳐게 있어 어디서
Now, in our lives, we do all sorts of, what we call virtuous actions. But actually, if those actions are done for just this life, there's really no benefit. If we're doing it just for a happy life, to be comfortable and so forth, it's not Dharma. It's not a Dharma practice. And so, in this verse, he says, is not a practitioner. So cast this aside. So these are things that we need to cast aside. And rather, what we need to do is use this life by developing a good heart, by practicing real virtue, which is not just for this life, but for at least for future lives. And in that case, what we're doing will be in harmony with the Dharma way of life. No.
다 디스디 니 기제 디나 디시디 다 교와 치메치도 지고리 체디 지도 지주요 말에서 기제 시에버리 다 디나는 키란도 삼년나 도바 다 오늘 체디 베트 르땅니 르땅니 다 한달 취 주고 그리사기 기제 전단님부 디리 아니 첼르 땅스도 삼바 아니 소소 미지나가 자 니리니리 초와 계단지요 와 당가라도 미수도 수인의 니리니리나 초와 계단지 요리 디게디 강가파 샤니 다 강바지나 주제 아니 베네 겨와둔 데고 디게제디 셰기요 말이스.
No. Now, from what I've been saying, which is what it comes down to, is we have the idea of giving up this life. Well, the thing is, you might think that what that means is you're supposed to give up everything to do with earning a living, which is what we normally need to do during this life, and just stay indoors. So that's not what it means. Giving up this life doesn't mean that. No.
가르스월에서는 간다라 세들의 가서를 셴바 마체바지 지당 안한도 다 취주고요리 아니 취주바티 취주야 땡디 안한도 단대기 밀루 다 간다 땡 약쇼디 단당 안한도게 밀루된 차되었다 텐조지 땡사디 밀루된 차되어와 밀루된 디간을 취주고요리 디 주발라 밀루된 소고요리 와 소고요리 밀루된 소발라 아니 세다 거다 내면다 디게 간가 땡고요 와 땡고도 삼아 나랑 좀 미지나라 키랑조다 레공을 내가 징에 있는 대가는 신바리 대가는 가래네 총을 가래네 고 니리니리 내가 수수 소쳐야 된다라 내가 지고고 내가 제바디 소쳐야 된도리 소쳐야디 가래 된도리스나 최최 최나바 타바지 두야 된다라 다니 땡디 두 땡디 소고고도 디치도 얘기 소수 니리기 레공이最왜 내가 가리는 디치에 삼바 삼로케바이나 강 미지나 내가 제바디 꾸루 미유 잡아디 최남다 주야가 된다래야 삼로 땅인데 좀 그 제와치 책이요 와 디마도 총 자고 말이 내가 지고 말 다가서 답 디게 강가 파샤니 취치사 기제도 말이
So actually, that's not what we're talking about. So what we're talking about is the idea that of giving up clinging or attachment to this life, right? So the thing is that the best kind of life that we can possibly have is a human life. When we talk about a precious, the leisures and endowments, we're talking about precious human life. That's the best life you can possibly have for practicing Dharma. Now, to be able to use this life for practicing Dharma, you've got to nourish this body. You've got to take care of this body. Otherwise, you won't be able to do that. So, you need to take care of it with food, with clothing. And so if you think to yourself very clearly, the reason I'm going out to work in the office, the reason why I'm going out to work in the fields, or whatever it might be, is so that I can practice pure Dharma. So in other words, to sustain this body so that I can use this body to practice pure Dharma. Then everything that you're doing is all for practicing Dharma. And so it's very much, connected with your practice of Dharma. And you're not doing it just for this life, are you? No.
Kyowa chime chedu chönamba tabaji dugugudu chönamba dubala dungi tendi tandang aranzo yödebek ini mi lüdendi di yagoji sogugudu di sowe chedu ni seda koda nemegi chedu 내가 가리니 지구구도 sambe samlodi ta 간다 최주야 전달라 다 수수 메지 초와 계고고 요바디 지도 삼아 고꾸는 나바 타바지 차기요.
So the thing is, again, then, we are talking about the idea, of wanting to make sure that we have a good future life. And we know that in order to assure ourselves of that, we need to practice Dharma. And so the best way to practice Dharma is with the human life. And once you have the human life, like we have at the moment, then you need to sustain that life. You need to nourish that life. You need food and clothing. So when you have that with that in mind, when you go out to work, knowing that you're going out to work, because of that, then your motivation for going out to work is a pure one. No.
어디에서 어두스 전에 다 삼류 치수 다버디 다 디레스 와추 다 교와 치메치도 삼로탄 쳐주고 그래서 디제 다 뒤에는 다 당보 단다 지준 잡아진제 송 대변하나 디송도 왔다 추줌다 퇴섬 공송 지구거리 수준 개념내 지구거리 퇴섬 공송 개념내 지구거리 교와 치메치도 디다 토마르 추줌 시에zam나 둘이 주베 자와치 타바 주베 팅게지 동해 보에 님보진 추줌라 메타 미타테스 다디리 와 제가 시간 디기 당보 추줌 시그리 아니 추줌 시아바 인도 추줌디 가르치 그래서나 아니 온돌 하다 미기 아니 추줌이하고 숨바 있나 온돌 하다 겨와 치만 남소 온돌 하다 미 콤바토야기 주착이요 그래서 추줌디기 주치기요 그래서
And then Jitendra Gyaltsen goes on to talk about the practice of morality. So in verse 5 it says, first to explain ethical discipline. So that's how it's been translated. That's the same as morality. It's the root of higher transmigration. It's the staircase to liberation. It's the antidote to suffering. So it's the root of high transmigration means when you practice morality purely, when you keep morality well, then that acts as a cause for achieving birth of high status, which means birth as a human being or as a god. No.
주dim디 오돌 하담 둘이 주베 자와진 주dim디 오돌 하담이 콤바토야기 자와암 유리스 어디신 거.
So in other words, it's saying in that line there, the second line there of that verse, that keeping morality, practicing morality, is the root of, in other words, acts as a cause for achieving birth of high status as a human or as a god. No.
주베 튕기지사. 와 주dim 송바에나 하다미 콤바토고요리 하다미 콤바토바에나 하다미 콤바텐디 규전에 마음바나야 타바토야기 깬자다고 샤오리 위스 주dim디.
Not only that, but how we achieve liberation is on the basis of having a life as a human being or as a god. So, since morality acts as a cause for us to be born as a human being or as a god, it therefore is acting as a cause for us to achieve liberation. So it's like he describes it as like the staircase that leads to liberation.
동해 보에 님보진스 봐 수dim이하고 송바에나 미개와 디게디 까용거와 미개와 까용도 삼바 미개의 제부디 동해리 봐 미개의 제부디 동해 있었잖아요 수dim이하고 송베 미개와 그게 아주 마소네 고가게 요리 미개와 고가베 수지 rāna dungē nyōyā di nyōru tūgu yor. Tīnza chūdum sōwa di dungē pāyā gi nyambo chaw chā tūgu rīs.
And then it's the antidote to suffering, because when you're practicing morality, then you're doing non-virtuous things which are the cause of suffering less and less. So as you do those less and less, the suffering becomes less and less. So morality equally acts as an antidote to suffering. No.
tīnza 다 chūdum 메타 메바시리 chūdum la 메타 미다데 다 ngaranzo 교와 치만나서 ngaranzo 단단 ngaranzo 미때 상부 디토네 ngaranzo 계제 파시 주시 ngaranzo 고시 고토고도 와 지금 받는 주 시에니 ngaranzo 라트야 여바다 여바데 미때 상부디 여베 깨르 마도 삼로 현다 지다에나 다 봐줄랑고도 키다 딘디지게나 ngaranzo 아니 게미게 네주파 데셰게니 라트야 주요 말와 딘자 ngazo tanta ten sango dindri chi mi lude ji ton ngaranzo pa zo keje shen ratron in susu samlo yaje ta yaje koga yago dindri chi yor di mi ten la yungu yor da yor ma do ni dindri ten la ya yor ma di mi so tane ta kewa chiman nang so mi ten sango ta ani tur hai ten sango ta mi ten sango to thobala ta yona mena di ta chudum di zawa chene go yor di chudum la meta te odi sungo ta.
No. And then the very beginning of the next verse, it says, you cannot succeed without ethical discipline. What that means is that it's really only as a human being that you can meet with people and discuss and get to understand how to practice. If a person tries to explain how to practice Dharma, morality, whatever it might be, to an animal, it just wouldn't, it doesn't work. You really need to be born as a human being, and therefore this ethical discipline, morality, is indispensable. No.
어디 다 간다 주름 써야지 나랑도 미 지조 나라 팀 잡고 차대요리 팀 안에 가르쳐고 그래서는 제무쇼와 즉 뭐나 미게벨레 강인바디 지초고 말이 써야지 팀 차대요리 좋아 다 미게벨레 강인바디 지초고 말이 디 미셔바디 주름 차들 제자 디소로 제 제자 미게벨레 가주 용으로 땅바 이나 디수기 동행 용으로 두고리 나랑도 동행 요약 먼저 동행 되게 요 말때 동행 요약 자와디 미게와 차대 그래 진짜 미게와 가주 망보 쳐봐 있나 미게벨레 망보 쳐봐 있나 디수기 동행 마음 용거리 주좀 가주 송바 이나야 미게와 가기 요리 미게와 지점 가베 수기 동행 용으로 두고 요리 이 인스는 주좀 데이터 매드미로 와치리스.
Furthermore, morality is indispensable because, in a way, if you think about it, morality implies a rule that we have amongst ourselves as human beings. Because what it means is, there are certain actions you shouldn't do. It's like there's a rule. You shouldn't do these actions. Those actions which you shouldn't do, we call them non-virtuous actions. And so the less you do those non-virtuous actions, the less you're going to have to experience the suffering which comes as a result of those actions. The more you do the non-virtuous actions, which means you're not practicing morality, the more you do the non-virtuous actions, the more suffering you have. So again, this is why morality, ethical discipline is indispensable.
이제 다 되네 디샴데라 기준 잡아진데 세딜라 셴베 추dim디 최제 주베 싸와진 추dim 녀라 샤와지 추dim 된라 차도진 랑게 추dim 오바진 녀주 주베 사베진 gyümé 추dim 쇼라 쇼사 다 추dim게 추dim 송고레데 이나야 세디 코네치도 삼미 디소니 추dim 송바 이나 송고 따와 아니 지데 추제 주베게 주다 차그리스 pen nga chudu ya bo songba ina nye mige wa pa pen na chudu ya bo songba mi ngala ya ko ya go de ko chudu songgo de ya go de tera tangiri samba ta ta dinde ge kunlu dinde ge se digi ni ke da yu ya da dinde ge chidu samlo ta ni chudu songba ina di chudu chewa chudu nya ba re yes wa ani ya 가르는 거 단다 야 주든 더 담바 현달에 다 담보디 남는 되기도 와 시딜라 신베 주든 최제 주베 자와 진세.
No. then the remaining lines of this verse and going on to the next verse, what this is saying is that, well, you know, Geshe Drapa has already made the point. We really do need morality. However, when we're practicing morality, it mustn't be for the just for the sake of this life. Then it just won't work at all. Because if you keep morality just for the sake of this life, then it takes you into the 8 worldly concerns, the 8 worldly concerns. Yeah. So in other words, practicing morality, thinking, oh, if I practice morality, then people are going to think I'm really great, I'm really cool, you know. And then that kind of thing, then the morality, we might use the word morality, but it's a corrupt kind of morality. No.
And chudung yen la shawa jinsen. The been chudung ya wo ma sung mera tangba. Chudung ya wo sung le ni tera tangba. Ta din de tera tangba de mera tangba. And ya chudung ya wo sung le so so chado so so ma yin be xian da chudung ya wo sung de la na so so chado jie ba. Wata din de jie ba na diga ma re de ya che de tumba che ga ma re sung yo.
And so what it's saying, what he goes on to say then is that, again, you know, if your morality, your ethical discipline is just for the sake of this life, then when you look at people who are not keeping morality, then you're going to, what you call it, you're going to sort of like put them down. And then people who are keeping pure morality, you're going to be jealous of them. And so then, you know, again, it's not going to be, your morality isn't really going to conform with the Dharma, no.
Rangi chudung oba jese. Rangi chudung oba jese, chudung, ya, mi yusa, mi jizo mangbo yusa, so chudung ya wo sungu yu do je, mi mesal, chudung ma sungwa je, dinde che na, ngogo che ba di, sungu yore. Dinde ya che ba, dunzu che ba yana, so ngendu duya gi, ju cha giri yeso, odi sungu yore.
Not only that, but then your own practice of the morality will be a mere pretense. What that means is, you know, you're going to be keeping pure morality, or kind of like pretending to keep pure morality when you're with people. But then when you're by yourself, then you don't keep morality at all. You don't, ethical discipline, you don't practice at all. So then it's going to be just a pretense. Your whole practice will be a pretense, and you'll be creating the causes to be born in the lower realms. No.
Gyümé chudum shiola shios, ta chudum zuma jabo dinzo pa yu shios. Chudum songwa di yagwa chi songgo gori, mi ki teora tanyo sa di, mi chik che, mi duyla chik yim chudum songgo yuwa sora, gyabla songgo mewa sora, dinde ma yin ba. Gyümé chudum shiola shios, chudum zuma dinde tana ma chi di pa yu shios, ta tanda deri.
No. So then he ends up saying, so cast aside the pretense of morality. In other words, morality just for this life where you're only practicing so that people will praise you. The way that you practice is you're going to keep the morality when people are around, not practicing it when you're alone. You know, just completely get rid of this pretense of morality. No.
Oh, diri, ta di unya tirin di tsik di zamde shani rwa. Zamde shani, tsik di taji karingo lamzu chena. Tanda lamzu sum yorwa, ngenjung da changsen yang da tawa sum yorwa. Tanda nganzu yage shenpa shiden tsedile shena choba minsa di lamzu chena ngenjung nala tsui dugo. Ngenjung nala. Lamzo namsu chena ngenjung nala tsui dugo. Daga nanshi nyame tabo la jiga myolam chenpu shi nane myolam tangbo lo chesu zhuwa saya chirwa di nala tsui dugo. Lo chesu zhuwa. Tsedile shena choba min shenpa shidi tsik tangbo di tsedile shena choba min sum yorwa. Choba min sum ya di jerimbo chiga lamzo namsu nane ngenjung kong le cha dugo. Nyame tabo la jiga myolam tsik shi juyo tsik shi nane lo chesu zhuwa shio saya tsik di nala du dugo. Di di cho tumba dugo chagyo.
No. Okay, so maybe I'll stop the explanation of this at this point. We've been talking about desisting from, not clinging to this life. And so where it fits in with the three principal paths is Lama Tsongkhapa's three principal paths, that it fits into the first one, the renunciation. And then in relation to the four aspirations, or I'm not quite sure what they're called, of the peerless physician of Tagpo, in other words, Gampopa. So that's that would be his first one, where he says, may my mind transform into the Dharma. No.
그래서 다 디인도 삼바 람촌 제르모치가 람촌 넘소나는 인주 수인도 삼바 체 딜라면에 샤바 도단 지당 체 치말라면에 샤바 도단 니나네 담다 체 딜라면에 샤바 도단 깨지듯이 시기요 봐 어디스는 람촌나라 인중 콩로 또 주단도 도스리.
And in fact, more specifically, when I say that about giving up, clinging to this life fits into the renunciation part of the three principal parts of Lama Tsongkhapa. So in his text on the three principal paths on renunciation, he talks about, first of all, giving up attachment to the appearances of this life, and then giving up attachment to the appearances of future lives. So this fits in with the first one, giving up attachment to the appearances of this life. No.
어두스제네 니 단다 깨지셔야 두스이다 단다 니 깨지셔야 차바 디나 테란조나 세부 마차바다 딘제유나 인가래야 단다 튀었다나 먼저 까면 쭈쭈앙아지도가 니 바로 파종한도 rolling 제바이나 가리용사리.
And so I think we got about 10 or 15 minutes. And so what we can do is, if you have questions about what I've been explaining this evening, then I should be able to deal with a few of those, I hope. So over to you, Christina. Is that right? Yeah. So the more details, the deal kashi the yigitole tangsa yigire.
So if anyone likes to ask a question, you can either type your question, as I said earlier, in the chat, or you can raise your virtual hand. It's at the bottom of the screen. You'll see a reaction with a little happy face. You can click on that, and there's a button that says raise hand. So just raise your hand and wait till your name is called, and we'll unmute you.
Anyone?
Questions. How would you, this is from Sarah, how would you recommend practicing with Manjushri?
Yeah, okay. Ta kontakin na de chisan de duchi lesson. Chisan disi to de ngasu de jambe yangi nyamlengi da jambe yangi nyamling kan se gores.
Wa. Ta jiju jamyangi nyamle는 지준 자매야 좋다라 망고 지다 당마기 기부 탐반는지 잠시에 지준 자매야 그 좋다 망고요 봐 좋다 망고요리 안 딘데려야 소소고 도나체 안 딘데잖아 라마 다 자와르미지 쯔베 소소게 되가 라마 딘데 군도네 지준 자매야기 제나슈야 요리 왕슈야 요리 칠럽슈야 딘데 슈베던 니리 나라야 지준 자매양기 생아 창제 rabchuna 다지 사진 공간용 보차시나 나와 투그린 지준 자매양 주친 나와 투는 군섬 슈베 루주 세기도 와 세기도 다 코나미 사진 공간용 보차시나 나를 개왕아만으로서네 바자 상보다 달래 상보다 다 딘데데 되어토네 딘데게 나와 투그 참는 지준 자매양 시에시고 딘데 중보도 봐다 나란조 있나야 대다 tumba in 지주 자매에게 갑도 튀라 아니 소소게 파싱이 투지라 아니 지주 자매에게 좁답 딘데게 돈에 지주 자매도 네 알아봐자 대금 제바이나 딘데게 돈에 아니 소소 시럽 페알라 제바 용거봐 시럽 배알 제발 가려서는 안쪽 간가 로준 시기요 봐. 로준 제알 시럽 인지미지 고고요. 된다 되마인배 남버 제베 시럽시야. 또와 되인바다 되마인배기 거기 남인지야 시럽디 인지미지 알아서 고고요. 시럽나바 타바 고발라 시럽가 투무 마인배기 믹스가 하디 지주자면 차대어 뒤에서는 지주자면 그 두다 된데 토네 소소게 니리니리 칸되나라 개디 참소로 되네 맞춤바 이나야 나도 공쇼래 아라바자 타야 전고 직니 숨디데 타야 숨베 디데치는 소아멜론다야다 디데 요레 어딘 딜레 듀버도 제바이나 나랑도 지주 잠배는 그 떠봐 강로마 요레 강로마 데 샴데 아라바자 사제 디데 전고 직니 디데 사 디데 제바는 소소 소아 멜론담 디데 제바이는 소소 시럽디 강 지주 잠배는 그 지라를 때는 시럽 중화디 시럽 세와다 시럽 네 넘버 타바지 제거 봐 지단 시럽 될 시럽 채와다 시럽 나한테 양다바 니 용거 봐 지도 시럽 채주고 말해 어때 딘데기 제바 지럽제 딘데요 딘수선에 딘데 냠내체는 디겨 있어.
No. Well, so if you're interested in practicing Manjushri, then there are many meditation manuals, what we call sadhanas, that have been composed by many holy beings in the past. And so it would be good to practice one of those on the basis of having received a permission or empowerment or blessing from somebody like His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And then on the basis of that, you can do a daily practice of Manjushri. The best, of course, would be to do just like Sachen Kungan Nyingpo himself did, which is, a 6-month retreat, at the end of which he was able to see Manjushri, to actually, see him face to face. Of course, he was somebody who had some very, very strong imprints, but at least we can, try to emulate him and do the practice, reciting do retreat, recite the Arapatsana mantra, and this will help us to develop wisdom. Because the thing is, if we're going to study, then we do need wisdom, because wisdom means being able to distinguish between what's true and false, and we need that. And so practicing Manjushri, who is the deity of wisdom, the embodiment of wisdom, is very effective for that. And even if you're not able to do retreat, it's okay, because you can devote some time each morning to the practice. You can recite a few rosaries of the mantra. Very good to do it on the basis of there's a short Manjushri practice. I don't know what we would normally call it. Anyway, it's probably called something like Praise to Manjushri. Anyway, it's the Gangloma prayer. And then to do that prayer, and then follow it with a few malas of the rosaries of the mantra, that would be very good. And then through Manjushri's blessing, your wisdom would develop. You would be able to achieve clear and like extensive wisdom, a very pure wisdom. No.
가려서는 나랑도 동해 유야의 주망부직 미시베 몸베 온게 다 동해 레산이 다 동해 연구요 봐. 미시베 몸베 온게 다 미시바 머리바스기 머리베 온게 레산이 동해 연구. 저도 머리베님 미시베게 님볼 시바지고 시바들 시럽도 개침부 차대요 와. 제가 시럽이 요나 아니 미시바 세네 아니 미시베게 주체발한테는 동해유아디 파게 용으로 줘야 편도 용으로 봐. 진짜 시럽생한테 개침을 잡아.
Wisdom really is very important, because if we think about it, a lot of our suffering comes about because we do things we don't know that what we're doing is wrong, and so we just do it anyway, and then that leads to suffering. We create the karma that leads to us experiencing suffering. So it's like that not knowing that's the problem. And so how to solve not knowing is by getting to know. And so wisdom is what helps you get to know and to understanding. So when you can understand, then you're much less likely to engage in the kind of unskillful karma that leads to suffering because of not knowing. No.
어디 다 주어 신다 유에.
Is there another question?
Yeah, we've got another one. First, wanted to thank Rinpoche for the teaching and you for translating. The question is, if you are grasping at signs that is not the view, could you please elaborate on the translation referencing the signs particularly? What kind of sign is meant here?
The Chidanda di Zimba Juna and Tawa means songs the Zimba Juna Tawa means then in some the Sema Zina Tawa means song those sombraches and Sema Seven said it Karikuguna.
세마르 지났다. 세마르 세야디 인주 니 나라서 벽에 돌아 세마르 지나세야디 세마디 짐바랑 찍어 된다 찍어래. 찍라당 개바만도 세마르 짐바스나 덴바르 짐바세야 소로지리. 와 짐바 주나세야 짐바 지당 나도 짐바시고로 세마르 지나 세야 세마디 덴바 마이바질 안 덴바르 진수나 아니 디기 따와책이요 말이야. 직지 전다 되리. 세마르 짐바사디 부 유오빈네단디 덴바 마이바질라 덴바 짐바텔라 세마르 짐바시요.
Yeah, here actually it doesn't have any very great significance. When we say grasping at signs, it really just means grasping at something which is not actually truly existent as being truly existent. That's all it means, really. No.
There's another question from Christine. Do we have time?
If there's no problem for us, then for me, no problem at all taking another question.
Wonderful. The question comes from Christine. How do we keep the thought of future lives in mind? What do we think about those lives? I find it challenging to know what to think.
How to keep the thought of future lives in mind is basically, isn't it? Yeah. Keep in mind the page that code the Paging also the Legamobuna, the Kiwajima, the Jedroining Gadoga, Chesan, the Gemadroid Tabshi Kariana.
Really, Joa Chimichiduda, Mazu Samu Tangoris, Laura. That Joa Chimadi, Pena Nimachi Chudu, Nisapshin and Kadu Tende Bataji, Gugumari, Rwa. Kandar Susu Shoge Lamban, Sundeta, Kandar Tiringi, and Gawa Khan Dubadi, and Joa Chiman also, Nipage, dance Sangboda, Tilig 인삼에 꿀lun지 요나 꿀lun디 슈게 이니파게 자와 칸체바디 이 자와 치메게 된다라 줄을 펜토고요 와 아마 꿀lun 키아디 개치무시다래 꿀lun 딘데지기 콘네 아니 수수 니샤지기 자와 가르치아바 이나야 자와 두바다 딱 가르치아바 이네 디게 타마 이 자와 치메 줄을 로토거 와 이네야 가두 이네 뒤다 나바콘데 자와 치마 텐데바디 고고 말이 이네야 다 자와 치마 돼야라 남주 남주 수야 가르치는 치와 미다바다 전주니 가와다 치와 미다바 디기디 삼로땅고리 야니ям도 삼로땅고 디디 삼로땅바 이나 아니 겨와 치마디 전야를 편도요 어디 숨요.
Yes, it's true that we do need to think about our future lives. That's certainly the case. Nevertheless, it's not like we need to be thinking of our future lives like 24 hours a day. If we make sure when we wake up that we think about our future lives and think that everything I do today is to have a good future life. If you have that motivation, then that carries you through the day so that everything that you do during the day is going to be, motivated by that. So it's for the sake of that, and therefore everything that you do becomes a cause of achieving that. So yeah, you don't need to be thinking of future lives 24 hours a day. Nevertheless, it is important to understand that what encourages us to think about future lives is reflecting on death and this precious human life with all of its leisures and endowments. The more we think about that, so death, precious human birth, the more we're going to, our mind is going to turn towards future lives. No.
This one.
No.
Any that to
Is there, are there other questions? Is there another one?
One more. If
Okay.
would one be clinging on to the next life if one were to practice Dharma to get the perfect rebirth in the next life?
Okay, so this must be to do with where it says, clinging to samsara or clinging to the three realms. Takana de monela karlabson sanada kewa jema la shenas. The yingu de diranda suma the koala shena yana the kamson la shena the ngeju means. Chazanda kewa jema la ani the denjogi mulur muchi Tomna samna, then it did call a shemberbes.
Oh, really, that Joa Chima had a me combat Toya Chidu Samlo Tani in Carsore. That's was children somebody that Dichavaina, Joa Chima, that Joa Chima turned the Yava, Joa Chima turned the Yavari, Joa Chima turned the Yava, the Red Yinaya, Manzo, call it Tawala, Langada Masoni. Joa Chima Namso Hadami command then the Gyche Langadamason did Junia Koala Tago Yorwa. Did Toya Tabatoyas in the window, Koala Trag Tablamla, Joa Chima Tuni Lord in Jimmy Jego, Tambolo Jambe Kala, Joa Chima Tuni, Lord Tieni, and Cheva Namba Tabaji, Joa Chima Tuni, Lord Di Rimba Gychene, and Tama Joa Chima. Tuni lojin da jawa chima top sabe jela yang ten samu juni tobe kabla yang samlu kapcho de tes jowa chin da jawa chima nam so la hada mi komba toba ne tesam jing anzo gasore halya da de keke mindu tiya khowe rang si ji re sha samlu ne se de ya tes ya par go yo wa 당분에 남사 코알 제 bet go ba ina di naga da ma so ne 따다지 주고요 말이 당보 남주 딸 남리이나 기부 충우 남니 디 냠레디 야고 차선 아니 기부 딩글 남 랍고야 내다 줘 봐. 디 림버 주는 도고 그랬어.
제던데 덴졸레션 덴조 톰나 삼네 삼베 삼주디데 아니 데 컨솔레션 셴버 도그르베
디 지단 코알 셴버 도그리 얘네 디 연주 책이요 말시 디 다가나지 저와 치말 하더미 콤바 토야기 삼로 딘데지기 토니 인치나 바타바 쳐면 고 연주 책이 말이세요 다디 디 코알 셴버 차바
no. It's interesting actually because yeah, I mean if you're attached to the idea of being born as a human being or as a god in your future life, then it wouldn't be renunciation. Nevertheless, it's a question of gradually turning one's mind towards liberation and enlightenment, just like we have in the teaching on the three capable beings, the three levels of practice that we find in the Lamrim teachings. So what I mean is that in order to achieve liberation and enlightenment, actually it's like the path that leads you there is like going from life after life as a human being or as a god, practicing on that basis. But you would need to gradually turn your thoughts towards liberation and enlightenment by recognizing that just being born as a human, just being born as a god after this life, including, having a precious human life, just that's not enough because you're still in samsara. And so then gradually, turning your mind towards liberation and enlightenment. No.
This one. That page, also Tirin to do the Shashanarwa, and Chua Yuna, Tanda Kiran, the Tishan, and in Sanyang of tuwe kala tuwa di chene dikido. Tayan tanda di gyagana chuzu guwa simdo duwa. Guwe kala kyangwara muchigi tanda tiri simgi ki choga chinangi yore, o di chene.
No. Semgirebe, tiring.
Tiri simgiri.
No.
Simgi nangi so.
No. So actually here, maybe we'll have to stop there. If there are more questions, then there'll be time tomorrow. Here it's getting on for 9 o'clock in the morning, and at 9 His Holiness starts teaching. He's going to be doing the bodhicitta ceremony. So for people who are interested. So we'll stop there then for tonight. No.
Dagi chini sabe gewa tenda doa guna kambe da kebara jizu Lobsang traba tembe nyimbo rindo seji sho chanju simjo rimbo je manje ban jeju je keba nyamba kone kondo pewara sho jambe pawe chitra jamba da kundo sambo te teta kunji je so dalo je gewa te da tamje rado Tusun shebe jawa tamjeje ngowa kanla chodo ngaba de dashe kewe zawa digu sambo chuje rabdo ngowara ki tujiche zamolo tujiche tashtine.
Thanks everybody. We'll stop there. Okay.
Good night.
Good night. Well, tujina.